Dummy Switch Pod.
Yes, sir. Yes,
The
sir.
boys are back. The boys are back. We're talking European around this time,
Yeah.
and just some other general comments. I'm here with my illustrious co-host, Chris. How are you?
Kudos, I'm good, man. I'm good. As long as the Sharks are winning, I'm always good. So I can't complain. How are you going?
My heart is a bit sore. My heart is a bit sore. The Lions, I felt like it was there for the taking, but we move. Let's get started on your team.
Yeah.
Essentially, the game was done by halftime. You could have put a fork in those boys. They were done. They were done. They were well done. The game, it was over by halftime.
Yeah.
I think previously maybe we would have thought Heineken Cup, some of the French teams, we might struggle with them. We might find them as difficult opposition. Even Bordeaux, looking at it before the two fixtures, you would have thought that maybe Bordeaux would have put up a bigger fight.
Yeah.
But the story really is the Sharks and the Stormers. In some of these rounds, they're putting these teams away.
Yeah. No, definitely so. And I think we also let's also be honest. This is also we helped by the disrespect of the French teams, because you can't send almost your B team to South Africa and think that you're gonna get a result. You're gonna get smacked in the mouth, and that's what happened to Bordeaux. I think the Sharks just showed their power game in the pack. Again, it's always in the pack. We spoke about it weeks before that when the Sharks play with their pack, the direct game, they're more likely to get a good result. And with players like Itzebeth, I mean, Sia's cooking, Itzebeth, he's just Itzebeth, and he just looks like he demands the best out of everybody that's around him, and everybody else is, especially in the pack. For me, that's what I like the most, is that pack just seems to be working very hard, and they wanna really dominate and really bully guys, and they're doing that to the team. So I'm glad, but we'll get more into it as we go along.
Yeah, for me, the only thing, man, I don't like is this agenda against Mapimpi. Leave Mapimpi alone, guys. Leave my guy alone.
They must shut up.
They must shut up. Mapimpi, there's this thing where it seems like the agenda is growing, and I feel like we also have that thing of SA Rugby. We have a bad habit of throwing players away too early. We always like the new shiny thing. We like the new guy coming up. Arons has obviously done well, but when I'm not ready to throw away Mapimpi yet, and I feel like just because the guy has a dip in form doesn't necessarily mean that agenda needs to be started against him. It's for those quick taps that they seem to have a problem with it. When scrum halves do it, no one has a problem with it. Yeah. But when Mapimpi does it, everyone has a problem. I know the one guy was injured, but it happens.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you want to see in this new era of rugby, you want to have players express themselves. That's Mapimpi expressing himself.
Yeah.
He's that type of guy. He likes to do that. So just let him be. Why must there be an agenda where they're saying no, Mapimpi, something weird is going on? But leave my guy.
Yeah, they need to leave Mapimpi alone, man. I mean, like, I think if you think carefully, you can recall in years gone by, Habana was also that kind of guy, and Mapimpi's earned the right. I mean, he's paid the cost to be the boss. You know what I mean? He has, because look, he wants to get stuck in, and rightly so. When he dips in form, and any player when they dip in form, we call them out, and when they pick up the form, we point that out as well, So with Mapimpi, they must just leave him alone. He's, as a matter of fact, if you look at that one incident where he took the quick tap, but then it ended up being a knock on by Manos Potgieter, who I would like to place on fraud watch, but it would have been a sure try, But and that's credit to him for wanting to take the game. He wants to, for wanting to play, for wanting to be on the front foot, to keep on applying pressure with ball in hand. I don't see that there's anything wrong with that. So they must shut up.
Yeah, like Mapimpi said versus Australia, they must shut up, man. Must shut up, man. Another agenda being started is the Rowan Janse van Rensburg agenda to be a Bok, which I fully support.
I like that.
The agenda is being campaigned by Swiss the Brain, that Lions connection. He's looking after his man, and I fully agree. He dominated Esterhazen when they came face to face. Esterhazen's had his chance. So I think Van Rensburg must also have his chance. He's a better player than even Jesse Creel. Jesse Creel can cover more positions, but he covers them in an average way. You can't say that he covers 15, 14. I'm sure Farenzwa can also play average on the wing, like how Jesse Creel plays average on the wing. So
He'd probably do better.
Can even do better. You know, another guy that I'm starting this agenda is the Buta agenda. Buta, personally, I feel like he's making strides. He's ghosting into those gaps. He's taking ownership of what he's doing. He's showing authority. And Fassi, I'm warning you, watch out. In the words of Desmond Tutu, I'm warning you, watch out.
Yeah, look, and look, rightly so. The Buta agenda, I can definitely see it. I can get with it. As much as I like Fassi as a player, look, he's good as a great young talent, great young prospect. But Buta seems to be bringing this calmness and assuredness at the back, you know. And you could see his influence in that game against Bordeaux, even more than Lionel Crenier, who okay, yes, it was injury enforced, but I don't see why he must be back at the Sharks, but okay, that's for another day. I know the Church of Fassi people won't be happy, you know, but at the end of the day, he hasn't really been producing the goods regardless of the number of opportunities that he's been given. He's got the potential, yes, for a magic moment here and there, yes, but the consistency, and Buta is showing that he can drive the game from the back. He, you know, went to kick, went to run. He's got a bit of a jink on him as well, you know. So overall, just as an overall package, you know, he seems to be bringing the goods, and he looks comfortable with what he's doing. So, yeah, the warning, I think it must be heeded.
Only thing I can say for you guys is maybe Chituka is even going to start at reserve hooker. Chituka is even going to start at reserve. You know, they've started playing him at lock, but I think even up front, you guys are a bit light. You might as well even just throw Chituka there. I think you guys, the recruitment there, I think needs to step it up.
Talking Chituka, I think if you see the player that he is, looking at that Bordeaux game, that guy's a buck. I'm sorry, through and through, that guy's a buck. You look at his work rate. The Sharks were in the Bordeaux 22, they broke out, and he turnover ball. Bordeaux broke out, and he was just chasing back. He's just working back. He got to that initial breakdown in his own 22. He didn't get the ball, but the fact that he was there, you know, it shows that work rate. And for me, the SA Rugby guys, you know, they need to start, you know, bring out those brown envelopes, you know, to Home Affairs. You know, I heard they're pretty open, you know, so they need to, because that guy's a buck, you know, and like you say, up front, you know, Bongi's a golfing class. He's way ahead, you know, and the next guy at hooker is not really at the same level. That's the reality of the situation. And I think the only thing with the Sharks really is that game against Bordeaux is that they became a bit too loose. It was a bit too scrappy, but the nature of it was done by half time, you know. But you just want to see them, for me, is just tighten it up, especially when it's, you know, crunch time games and away from home. They need to just be able to put teams away and just really build that consistency.
Yeah, now if we're talking Lions, no consistency there with the Lions. It's a story of missed points. Lombard left some points on the table. And I also feel like in the first half they had that domination, but they missed out on those points, and then they couldn't kick on further from that in the second half, which is unfortunate. Lombard also, he seemed assured, age group level. You've seen him at the Craven Weeks. You've seen him at the under-20 Watts. Yeah. But when it comes to this now, stepping up to senior rugby, he was fine when he was in between maybe an experienced scrum half and Elton Yankees. But now when there aren't any experienced players in that backline, I feel like he's showing a bit of jitters, missing those points, some drop balls. I'm not going to be too hard on him, but it is a bit difficult. You can see he's finding a bit difficult, maybe with less experienced guys around him. And that's also the story of the Lions, is that they're bringing in some guys, especially on tour. There's some guys that should be on tour, but they're busy watching cricket in South Africa. But one of the success stories of that is in Klabakanye. In Klabakanye against Vincent Koch, especially in the scrums, we saw he did his part, putting in some big hits, getting around the park. Even against Munster, he had a very big tackle count there. So I think as much as they lost they're bringing guys in. Guys are getting that experience and push on for there. As much as it's a results business,
Yeah.
it's a results business. I don't know how Cash is sleeping, but we'll see.
Look, maybe he's sleeping well because he's sure of his job, But the results, the results can keep one awake, all night. But yes, in Tlabaganya, I think definitely he's got something, As much as Willemse found him out against the Stormers, but he's definitely got something. He can get around the park for a big man, He's scrummaging. He can only get better for a youngster, because at the time I think he was captain of the Curry Cup for the Lions. So he's surely he's got those leadership skills. But again, with the Lions squad selection and also being able to get the right experienced guys around, because yes, you've got your Willem Alberts in the pack, you've got your Aku Creels, but now in the back line, they're lacking, so they're imbalanced in my view. And a guy like Johnny Lombard, he's not a bad player at all. One bad game doesn't make him, a bad player. He can only get better. He can only learn from this, from the setbacks and get better. You just hope that, in the next round, that the selection is better to really give the Lions team a chance to actually get a good result. Because at home, I think against Stade Francais, they got a good result. So they can do it. It's just the selection, but the French disrespect as well.
Even the thing is, the discipline away from home, that's ultimately what cost them the yellow cards. We have to do better on the road, and it's something that I know the Bulls fall victim to, but we have to do better on the road. Even, I'll say it now, Mlamlashe, he's gone back to the Griquas.
I think that's a big mistake.
Yeah, because they've got Manny Ras there, but I'm feeling like we're missing an outside centre there, especially when you see Henko van Wyk getting that yellow. I feel like he was really pushing him for that position.
Yeah. And
I don't think Ras will push him in the same way.
No.
But alas, that's my Lions. That's my Lions.
For me, the Lions just get Mlamlashe back. That guy's a quality number 13. I've rated him since Varsity Cup. At Tux, he's the future. As much as they've got Henko van Wyk, I believe Mlamlashe has got a bit more. It's not showing just as yet, but give him the opportunity, and I think we'll see something. But alas, it's the Lions.
Moving on to the Bulls. The Bulls again. Bulls, they did good here. Similani especially, he justified his selection.
Yeah.
He justified his selection.
Yeah.
That was the main point, is that Similani finally is getting a chance and he's producing. You can't at this stage, it's one of those things. It's the same like Butcher. It's like you can't drop a guy that's playing this well.
Yeah.
I mean, again, a lot of competition for that position, but he's doing well.
Do you know what I would argue with Similani? And I think it shows the quality of Harold Forster. Is when he plays with I think Harold Foster he was just unlike, I think he was close to being a Bok at a stage, and when I saw that lineup and I thought that Similani would have a good game because of Foster and he did. Yes, some of there's one or two decision making here we can get better, but overall he justified his selection there. He produced, so good on him, and I'm glad to see that at least he's been given that opportunity and he's taken it.
Only other dubious thing is that Nkosi was located, but then it seems that he's disappeared again. We haven't heard anything about him, any updates about him, and I think that's one to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Besides that, in the game, I felt like the Bulls, they did way better on the ground. The Nizam Kar, Eric Lowe. Even Eskom, they really dominated Exeter.
Eskom was better. Look, I have to make a special mention to Marco van Staden, because I think a few weeks back we didn't mention that. Look, he hasn't seemed to be the same player ever since that head injury, and now that game he came back, he bounced back, and he really showed what he's about, and the blood on his face, that look, he's getting stuck in, and again it's also that momentum. So finding his feet, game by game, more games, the better the guys play. So, Bulls looking better, yes, especially at home. It's just,
especially at home.
It's just the concern is away. I think for all these teams actually, except maybe the Stormers, but yeah, for all our South African teams, it's just that away from home we haven't really cracked that winning combination for away from home as yet. But yeah, Bulls can be satisfied. Although Exeter are a good team. Exeter a good team. I mean, come on, you got to give them that at altitude. At a stage, if Exeter had gotten points, early on, it was going to be a completely different game because they would have had their tails up because they were prepared to run it and take the Bulls on. So close, but good for the Bulls.
I don't see it the same way. I feel like at the scrums they couldn't survive at the scrums. At the breakdown they couldn't survive at the breakdown. At those 2 points you lose the game. You can't compete if you're not competing at the scrum or the breakdown.
I hear you.
But yeah, Bulls at home it's fine. Away from home it's discipline.
Yeah.
Other discipline that we saw from Exeter was the red card. Even if you look at other fixtures, it seems like the red cards they're being handed out quite freely. But if you talk even the Stormers game, there was some reds in there. The Stormers did well. I don't know. I just feel like they're just better. They're just better than London Irish. And it's the same thing as the Sharks, where they're just a gulf in class between the two teams. And we had said Heineken Cup, how is it gonna go? These teams, English Premiership, but we're seeing Stormers are just better. Even the Stormers weren't firing on all cylinders, but at the same time they were just better.
And they were away from home.
Yes, they were away from home. They were playing at Brentford Stadium there. They were playing there, and it seemed they were in control throughout the whole game.
Much better. Look, considering that they were away from home as well, much better. Okay, yes, the away fans are gonna say, or the home fans are gonna say, the red cards, etc., referees. But overall, just the way that the Stormers play, and I mean, like you see a guy like Ronald, who's, he was just reading their plays, like, geez, it's like he was practicing with them the whole week because he knew what they were running,
Line speed.
Yeah, the line speed of the Stormers, he was getting in their faces, and like you can't really find too much wrong with the Stormers, in terms of how they play. It's just they also, I mean, they know how to win away from home. It's just building that consistency. And like we mentioned a few weeks ago, it's just they look like the team that can break that ceiling and become that dominant force, for South African rugby. They're not there yet, but they can get there. Look, if you're a Stormers fan, you should be happy. But overall, Stormers they're just on a different cloud right now.
Yeah, I know you had some problems with Angelo Davids. He fumbled one there. It was on a plate. But he made up for it later.
Okay,
he made up for it later.
He made up for it. It's just, for me, there's just certain things where he just, like, sometimes I'm just like, come on.
The other winger, Hartzenberg, he also had a good one. A nice link up with Ngomezulu. Lubbock, unfortunately, going off there. But at the same time, the positive was Ngomezulu got some game time, and he steadied the ship. He was solid. It seems like people have more faith in him than Lubbock, which is,
I find that questionable.
A bit questionable for me. Lubbock is the more accomplished guy, and for some reason I don't know why. I don't know why, but they seem that there's more faith in him than there is necessarily in Lubbock. Lubbock also linked to Racing, which is I don't know. I can't see it, but I'd love to see it.
Look, if he goes, I'd welcome it. I'd welcome it. We need to see more of our players. And especially players of color, especially guys at the back line, getting the opportunity. We shouldn't just be sending our forwards over there. We want to see some of our backs playing there. And again, if we're playing against them in the competitions in the Champions Cup and Challenge Cup, why not? Why not? And Lubbock, he must cash in his chips while he still can, because there's no guarantee that he'll be a consistent fixture in the Springbok setup. As we know how things can play out. So yeah, but overall, I think with the Stormers, they're on the cusp of something, and they just need to just keep it consistent and do it. And I think we'll be happy South Africans overall.
The funniest thing about that game was when you saw Janse van Renzo for London Irish. He thought he had escaped playing these kind of guys every week. He thought he had escaped playing. He thought these guys were staying in Super Rugby. You could see his face was troubled. That's another thing where you can see the guys that escaped to overseas that were maybe on the fringes. They didn't expect to be seeing these guys again. And some of them are really being bullied when it comes to the physical aspect of the thing, where maybe in the Premiership they are the physical ones. But once the real guys step in on the pitch there, you can see who's who.
Yeah, you can see the difference.
Yeah, other fixtures. I think we're still in Europe. We're still in Europe. My main thing is just progress. Don't do one thing 1 week and then you're away from home and then it's just discipline the next week, and then just try and build on things. And I think it's been a relatively good week. And I think next week, as long as we build on from maybe mistakes that, like the Lions, for example, less of those mistakes, even if they don't win, although I am expecting them to win, especially against Welsh opposition, which typically are poor.
They play them in URC, Dragons.
Yeah, they play them in URC, so we should be seeing better things from them. I think that's it from me. Any closing remarks, Chris?
Look, I think from my side, all I want to see, like you said, is just that, progress, but also understanding the fact that squad management in playing in different tournaments, it does play a factor. So sometimes the results won't go the way that we want, but just progress, like you mentioned, and like for me is get Chutuka that citizenship, please. That's all.
And leave Mapimpi alone, guys.
Yeah, just leave him.
And leave Mapimpi alone. Let him live.
He's paid the cost to be the boss.
Let him live.
Leave him alone.
Only other thing I have to say is apparently if we make the semis, they're still going to be played in Europe. They're not going to be played at home.
That's bullshit.
We'll visit that once we reach the semifinals. Yeah. But again, that's it's the travel. Now it's that the semifinal will be there. But there's a lot of Saffers over there. So maybe we can all gather and support up the boys there. Yeah. And I think that's it for us. Dummy Switch Pod. Thanks for watching.